Hello, my good friends, to the 7th episode of D&Debates, where we meet weekly also to debate random topics about Dungeons and Dragons, like they really matter in today's society. Today we'll be talking about the very important topic of feats. Some love them, some hate them. I guess we'll see today who here loves and hates them. But if the debaters would like to introduce themselves, go for it.
I'm Scott.
I'm Corey.
And I'm Amanda.
Yes.
Who are you? Who are you, Mr.
Yeah.
Voice Man?
Oh, I see. Yes, I am Jake. I am the moderator of today's debate. As you can tell, I've prepared this. Well, today we'll be doing 3 questions on feats, 2 of which were shown to the debaters beforehand, the 3rd of which is going to be a surprise round, or a surprise question. They'll have 2 minutes to answer each, and then there'll be a short chaos round where they can just shout at each other, basically. So I guess we'll go right into question 1. I shall roll the dice to see who goes first. It is Amanda going first. And question 1. Feats can only be obtained in 2 ways by the rules of 5th edition: by being a variant human or by giving up an ability score improvement. This often causes people to choose the most powerful feats, such as Great Weapon Master, Mobile, or Lucky, or they might choose not to use any feats at all. How do you think the way feats are gained, or the design of feats themselves could be improved, or perhaps you think feats are fine just as they are? Amanda, you are first. Let me pull up a timer, but whenever you're ready, you may start.
Cool. So feats, I think they're great. I think they're fun. But here's the deal with feats. For experienced players, we kind of want them more. Either a lot of us will take variant human or some custom lineage in the beginning to get an extra feat, and then having to choose between ASI or feats at level 4, 8, and so on. It's kind of annoying because you sacrifice important stat increases for a kind of cool custom, thing I'm good at ability. But on the other hand of that, for newer players, it's a sort of overwhelming element that they often try to ignore or not use, because during new character creation, we have to look at all these things from racial traits to subclasses to choosing your skill proficiencies and your background. Adding in feats is another this long list of things and abilities to choose from that I know from experience is just terrible to comb through. So here's what I want to propose to sort of help fix that. I think, you know what, screw it. Let's get ability score increases and a feat at those, levels. I think feats aren't actually that powerful. I guess they could be a bit more balanced in some areas, but I think once you're at that point, those higher levels, they could be a fun thing to take and add it as it's a little extra bonus ability. It's not quite like this game-breaking, for the most part, sort of power-up. And just I think it'd be an optional rule that for certain campaigns, regardless what level you start at, you can choose to have every character start with a feat. This is a way for campaigns with more experience or returning players to get a little more customization and ability and power without it being forced upon new players who are like, what is this other list of things I must comb through and choose from? But ultimately, it's a homebrew that a lot of people will use to how it start with feat. Just double up for variant human, custom lineage, and that's my argument.
That was time exactly. So the gaining feats with ability score improvements and starting with feats for experienced players.
Yeah, just make it optional.
Yeah, optional. I shall roll another dice to see who goes after that. That is you, Corey. So 2 minutes whenever you're ready.
All right. So I think feats are
great, but they are, like you said in the question, kind of various in nature. You have your stronger feats, your more, utilitarian, kind of versatile feats that anyone can really take and be strong with having. Naturally, the power and usefulness are kind of all over the place, which is why I think there ought to be a system that keeps some of the less popular feats still in use, because they do have their benefits. And I think the best way to do this is to separate feats into two categories: low tier feats and high tier feats. And I suggest that at level 1, every character starts with a low tier feat, regardless of race or class, what have you. And maybe have, like, since human or custom lineage already has a feat, maybe just adding that on there. It further customizes and individualizes a character at level 1. From the very get-go, you want to kind of just have a fleshed out character to start, and then the feat rules can remain the same, allowing for ASI substitutions for higher tier feats to be at, maybe you take it at a 4th level or an 8th level or what have you. But yeah, basically, I just think that the feats should be separated, and characters should get the choice of only the lower tier feats to add to their characters, so that they can diversify them without making them imbalanced with their power. And yeah.
Awesome. So just to be clear, the difference between low tier and high tier is that you can only choose low tier at level 1. Are there any other differences?
I guess I should elaborate. The low tier are kind of the weaker ones, like your dungeon delvers or dare I say keen mind, and the higher tier are stuff like that you mentioned in the question, battle or great weapon master, mobile, lucky. Low tier feats can be taken anytime, but high tier feats can only be gained on an ability score increase substitution.
Okay, sure. It's just so low level feats, you can take them instead of ability scores, but you can also take one at level 1. Right. Awesome. Well, I do not need to roll a dice for the third person, because it is you, Scott. Whenever you're ready.
Okay. So I agree that giving more feats is the only solution to the problem of diverse feat choices. However, if you are giving more feats, you also run the risk of feat overload. The perfect example is Tig from your game, who currently has 5 feats at level 8, because custom lineage took every single ASI as a feat. Instead, you gave him a free feat, and I bought a feat in the game. I have 5 feats right now. It's great for your game because the combat is broken in your game, and I love being able to keep up with that a little bit. But in most situations, that's not a viable or sustainable option for the Dungeon Master. The second issue that I see is that there needs to be a level of progression with how the game is designed, and how the monsters are supposed to scale. Therefore, I recommend having a system for ASIs and feats that correspond with the tiers of play as described in the DMG. My system is that you can no longer choose between an ASI and a feat. At level 4, right before you enter the Heroes of the Realm tier and get extra attack and everything, you gain a feat and a +1 ASI. At level 8, midway through Heroes of the Realm, you must take an ASI. At level 12, you get the same thing you got at level 4 as you enter Masters of the Realm. At level 16, again, midway through a tier, ASI. Level 19, well into the Masters of the World epic tier, and right before the fabled level 20, you go ahead and you get a feat and a +1 ASI. This system keeps us from feat overload by limiting it to 4 at 20th level if you pick Variant Human, and it makes sure every character is progressing mechanically at the same rate. What's more, it also preserves the ability to bump your ASIs on those levels when you take feats by presenting the option to take those feats that provide a small statistical bonus at the same time as you gain a +1 bonus somewhere else.
And that is time. So changing the system at how feats are gained, I like that. And feat overload, yes. I'm sure 5 feats, that's ridiculous. Go, Chaos Round.
Corey, the trouble with dividing things into major and minor feats is that you create the same problem in two different categories. There are feats that are in that mid-range, feats like Shield Master, feats like Resilient for new types of saving throws, one new type of saving throw, Elemental Adept, arguably, depending on the build. All of these feats, you come up with this problem where now there are power building options for minor options, and there are power building options for major options. And you have weaker feats that are major things that are now a bigger opportunity cost. And so those feats are getting avoided taken. And then every time someone gets a minor thing, all of the experienced players are rushing to the same thing. So I really don't think that it solves the problem. It just puts more restrictions on the players.
I'm going to piggyback off of that because it also brings up the question of what counts as, high, a low tier, high tier feat, because there's some low tier things that I've taken that may be considered low tier, but I think my character can make the most of that I can use creatively and is very helpful. It's fitting for my character, so I want to take it. This so subjective, besides the lucky, which is like just so broken regardless, objectively. It's just so subjective, you can't organize feats into those two types of categories. Also, with every character starting with 8 feat in level 1, even if it is low tier, it's still just adding to that sort of feat overload that's got brought up earlier, especially for new players having to choose just another thing, comb through another list of things to add to their character. It's annoying when they're already unfamiliar with other things to choose from, like backgrounds, like skill proficiencies, tools, languages, even racial abilities. It's just too much.
Speaking of feat overload, Amanda, a feat every time you gain an ASI plus an ASI. If I have a 17 in dexterity and I decide to take a +2 dexterity and proficiency in the dexterity saving throw, I am now up to a 20 dexterity. I could decide to replace an ASI and get both Polearm Master and Great Weapon Master on the exact same level up. That's an incredible amount of power.
I should clarify, it's not like you couldn't replace one and do like a double ASI thing or a double feat. It's like you just get one of each. However, I'd also argue that feat overload, in that the way you have it described, but just have a lot of feats, is only really a problem for newer players, people who are more unfamiliar with feats and have to choose for so many. If we're at a point, okay, Tig with 5 feats, do you like having 5 feats for Tig?
Yes. I'm not arguing it's a problem for the players. I'm not saying feat overload is a problem for the players. I'm saying it's feat overload in terms of the amount of feats for the balance of the game and for having the party be on the generally same power level, and for the DM. It's an overload in terms of balance. It's not an overload in terms of information you're sorting through, because D&D is a crunchy game, and the experienced players are going to...
Yeah,
yes?
well, speaking of crunchy, thank you for letting me talk. Speaking of crunchy, hypothetically, if yours using the tiers of play thing sounds great. Practically, who uses the tiers of play? I don't. I forgot that was a thing. You said, I'm like, oh, that's right.
Have you ever ran a campaign that went past like level 5?
No.
Exactly. So it would never become a problem in your game. Based
your balance off the thing no one ever uses. That doesn't give a lot of
balance off of the thing the game is balanced based off of seems like a decent idea to me.
No, because no one else uses that thing to balance in their, like, especially for homebrew DMs. No one really uses the tiers of play. It's always sort of like, what feels good, what feels fun, what's the best. I think having...
Every time you reach level 5, that feel changes. Every time you reach level 11, that feel changes. As soon as your full casters gain 9th level spell slots and the Wish spell at level 17, that feel changes. You don't have to address it as the tiers of play for it to be a legitimate power thing. We're talking about the levels, for the most part, aside from level 17, that fighters get another extra attack, and the damage output changes for the whole thing. We're talking rogues get uncanny dodge at 5th, and reliable talent at 11th. We're talking 3rd level spell slots, which is a huge jump up from 2nd level spell slots. We're talking 6th level spell slots, which is a huge jump up from 5th level spell slots.
Right now I'm running campaign. Right now I have a campaign that's like going to be levels probably 3 through 5. how do I make that then, if I'm basing that off of the tiers of play, how do I still make that feel like they're growing and they're developing and things are changing when it's levels 3 through 5? It's not the best. It can't just base everything off of those tiers of play, just when so much is done
The
short
same
term.
way that you would in a normal thing. The ASIs are already balanced for that to be about once every half tier of play. I think the thing about mine is you get an early feat option at the same time as you would regularly get an ASI. You're not changing anything fundamental about your 3 to 5 campaigns. My argument is that the tiers of play, even if you don't like use that term when you're balancing the game, that just happens naturally because of the abilities that you get at those levels.
Sort of, but also in general, I noticed just things are. I don't use that system like more. I don't think about it that way. I always until like this year, I haven't even thought about like that sort of stuff. And I get it; it's good, it's helpful. I just don't think it's practical.
Play, and it happens. It happens when you go through campaigns that go through 3 tiers of play. That's what naturally happens. Characters that are level 4 don't feel like the Avengers. Characters that are level 12 feel like the Avengers. Basically, what I am saying that characters get more powerful, and you are arguing with me about that because of the words I use.
I don't know how to put into words that I don't vibe with your idea. That's what I'm trying to say.
I vibe with my
Corey,
idea.
do you want to talk? Corey,
I would like to talk. I mean, I'm just gonna save my counter arguments for my closing statement because it's been that long anyways. I'll just say this, Amanda. You talk about what do you talk about? You talk about feat overload and the ease for new players looking through this huge list of feats. But how does your method get rid of that?
Right, yeah.
Like you're still giving them feats and they still have to look
character. Yeah, but at that time they're level 4.
But they're still like new like okay, fine, sure, they've played a few sessions of D&D, but like they're still gonna be new to feats. And like I mean that's kind of just like how it is now. I mean, and I just
that's assuming that they're starting at level 1. Not every D&D player starts at level 1. I find a lot of people start at level 3. I find plenty of people start at level 5. My first 5e character was a level 4 character.
I mean, also if feats are optional at level 1, I mean, any experienced player is probably going to take it, and any new player that isn't is going to be like kind of docked for not taking any feats.
That was more of an optional like game rule, like hey, we're starting the campaign, everyone gets a feat or not.
Okay, but then what if everyone does get a feat at level 1? You run into the same problem that you posed to mine of everyone getting a feat at level 1.
That's implying it's going to be a campaign with players who want the feats and who are more comfortable looking through more things.
Well, then same thing for my argument. Then you can just apply that hypothetical to my situation of having feats at level 1. And, you know, I'll also say this. I mean, you do mention for my method of having the low tier and the high tier that there are kind of more of a mix, and it's weird to put these mid-tier stuff into, you know, high tier. But I, first of all, think that resilience is a really good feat. I would consider it high tier. But also that, you know, like I said, you can pick any feat after, you know, at the current, you know, ASI levels. And if you think subjectively that it would be great for your character, you can take it. I'm not, you know, my method doesn't force anyone to take a certain strength of feat. It just kind of encourages people to take those that are kind of less mechanically viable at level 1 in order to have a more character depth.
I don't think that it's quantifiable to make it into major and minor because it depends so heavily on the character build. A feat like Shadow Touched, where you can cast those spells that you gain with your current spell slot, is going to be much more effective on, say, a paladin than it is on a fighter. I don't think that you can differentiate those two that way.
Well, think about it like weapons. Think about it like simple and martial weapons. Some weapons are better for certain character classes, and you pick those, you know, when you're making your character.
In what situation a simple weapon is better than a martial weapon?
Well, no, I'm saying, okay, you're fair enough, but I'm saying like within the category simple and martial, like within all of them, out of all the martial weapons, you're not gonna pick the same one every single time. Like you're gonna pick the one that's best for your character. You see what I'm saying? Like it's, I mean, hey, maybe you have an offhand and
Look.
you know, you're not gonna
Only
pick a,
certain
Look.
classes, but only certain classes get martial weapons. You know, but like every class would get access to the same breadth of feats.
Also, look, I guess I don't know if we're going to closing statements. I feel like we've been arguing for a while. I will say, look.
Say what you must say, and then we'll end the chaos rounds.
Oh no, I can just go into my closing thing because at this point,
Closing statement.
look, I'll be honest. I know mine isn't the most mechanically sound. It needs some workshopping, some balancing. I get it, but I guess the main point of my closing argument is that Corey's is worse because to separate feats into two distinct categories is bad. They're very subjective, and you cannot quantify things that are not meant to be quantified in such a way. Scott, like I said earlier with yours, I mean, it's fine, I guess. I just don't vibe with it, and it's hard for me to explain why. I just don't vibe with it.
I will do my closing statements next. Amanda, I think you don't vibe with mine because you only run low-level things and you haven't done the transference of the tiers of play. I think that's the only reason you don't vibe with mine. I think everybody thinks the tiers of play are cool.
Got me there.
Yeah. And then additionally, I think mine is the best way to prevent I think mine addresses best the problem of too many feats stacking up. Our goal is to have more diverse choices of feats, and so to guarantee certain feats to every person, and mine does that without everything, piling into each other and creating this cascading effect.
all right. So with my method, I think the main problem mine addresses when it comes to feats is the fact that everyone, I mean, mechanically speaking, all of the same feats are kind of just generally better to take, especially for people who like to min-max or people who don't want to feel weak in the party of min-maxers. And so by separating it into these low tier and high tier feats, and yes, they are subjective, but it sort of encourages first level characters or PCs that are creating characters to add depth and diversify their own character and give them more of a defined sort of connection with the game. And then throughout the rest of the campaign, take whatever feats they deem necessary, whether they are high tier, low tier, it doesn't really matter. As long as they're picking, the feat that's right for them, and just separating those two is what is going to make feats kind of just more useful in general in D&D.
Awesome. Good debate. We shall move on to question 2 now. Maybe roll to see who goes first. I think Amanda, you were first last time, so it can't be you. Scott, you're going to be going first this round. This is the question. 2 minutes for your opening statements. Feats provide mechanical advantages, but they also give players the opportunity to provide depth to their character. Tell me about a character and which feat is essential to who they are and why. Focus on the role-playing and backstory element and how the feat contributes to the identity of the character, but feel free to mention mechanics as well. Your 2 minutes starts whenever you're ready.
I want to bring up a feat that I have wanted to make a character entirely based around for the longest time, because it is a feat that is both mechanically sound, but also unique, not one of the go-to options, and possibly has the coolest name out of all of the feats, and that is Mage Slayer. I am fascinated by the idea of building a character entirely around the concept of revenge and hunting down mages, making sure no more magic in the world, making sure that they are trained specifically. This would be a martial character because the feat is made for martial people. Specifically trained to hunt down and fight mages, and make sure that these people who wield, with what right do they wield these arcane or divine powers, make sure that they never overstep their bounds. I would make them a Way of Shadow monk, so that they can use some of the Way of Shadow and Monk's abilities that synergize well with mage hunting, stuff like being able to cast silence with key points in order to shut down verbal components, stuff like using Stunning Strike in order to make sure they can't use any spell actions, and using the mobility to get up to mages, which are typically in the back lines of the enemy. So not only is it a mechanically viable option, it is one that is founded in roleplay and provides you with a strong direction to go in wherever you place your character. You're guaranteed to have strong hooks wherever, because magic is everywhere, and you get this nice revenge-driven kind of character with whatever backstory you want to put to that.
Awesome. With 5 seconds to go. So the Mage Slayer. I agree though, that name is actually really cool.
Awesome.
Corey, did you go second last time?
Yes.
Okay, so Amanda, you are second. Your 2 minutes starts whenever you're ready.
So, look, I could have spent a lot of time, going into like finding the perfect feat, the perfect character, but I didn't have time for that. So instead, I went with one of my favorite characters I've ever played with a very fun feat. This is my character. His name is Wyatt West. He is a multi-class Battlemaster fighter, Oath of the Watch's paladin, who is centered around this chef feat. Basically, a little backstory on Wyatt West. He was a cowboy in late 19th century, like actual Arizona. After saving his town from a group of vicious javelinas, he was approached by the Watchers because they're actually interplanar javelinas, and now he travels the Forgotten Realms, helping others with his rootin' tootin' Wild West shootin'. Now, the chef part comes in because look, cowboy cooking is an iconic part of cowboy history, because you bet Wyatt was like a chuck wagon chef traveling along with his, cowboy companions, cooking up things along the way, helping out people. It's a big part of the Watchers as well. Also, cowboy cooking aligns so well with like short rest cooking. You have your non-perishables, your sort of dried meats and your beans, and you just camp out in a single pot, making chili or like cowboy biscuits or whatever along the way. And he's this kind-hearted guy who is cooking for his friends. He's aiding his friends, his companions along the way, traveling a lot. Being a Watcher means you're traveling across the plains a whole lot too. It fits so well thematically. I think this chef feat, it's a great feat for as like a support thing for the entire party. It helps not just you, but also your companions. It is also it's creative, it's different, mechanically sound. It's not like a combat thing, but has other benefits. And it just makes for a fun character. I think cowboy cooking should be used so much more in D&D. Short rests, it gives purpose to short rests even more, besides just like, we need hit points. It's fun, it's thematic. I love Wyatt. Yeehaw. Yeehaw.
The cowboy cook. It does have a good ring. It has a good ring to it. And last but not least, Corey, your 2 minutes starts whenever you're ready.
Cool. So yeah, I think that feats are best used to immerse your character even more so into the world of a campaign. And the character that I have chosen is my character Galena from Jake's campaign that he is running, Doom of Undarian. She is a paladin of the deity Glenroy, this basically savior god of the realm. And the feat that I'm going to be talking about is the Prodigy feat, which I took at level 1 because Jake gives us so benevolently feats at level 1. And the Prodigy feat gives you skill proficiency of choice, tool proficiency of choice, and fluency in one language of choice, as well as expertise with a skill proficiency. And so with Galena, the skill proficiency was, if not already religion, something like history. The expertise with religion, not only because she's a paladin and that's a mechanically, I mean, not mechanically, but more just kind of, intuitive character choice, but because she as a character is very in tuned and in touch, as everyone here knows, with Glenroy in that religion. Polygrapher set was a custom skill because, as someone learning and studying under the Glenrodia, she knows how to write. Also, I put in the language Gnomish because I knew that the deep was, a significant part of the world going into the campaign. And just generally, it kind of allowed me to, show those parts of Galena's background without having to make it super overt. You just using that feat to give her that that skill within, religion, mostly, and that's time.
Thank you for finally explaining that she had expertise in religion, because I just thought you had like an outrageously high intelligence modifier for the longest time.
I actually never knew you took that feat. I thought you were going to go with shield master because I knew you had that feat, but you started with 2 feats, didn't you?
Yeah, very human.
We shall now start the chaos round where everyone shouts at each other. Go.
Amanda.
Okay, yes. No, you can go. You can go. Yes.
Wyatt's a freaking one-shot character. Okay, being a chef.
I would gladly play him in a full campaign.
I'm sure you would. But here's the thing. Look, him being a chef doesn't really have much to do with anything other than the fact that he can like heal his companions and cook chili. Like him being helpful, I guess, can really be.
Yeah, I can
anything.
He cares for others. He's watching out for his friends.
So can any character without having the chef feat.
That's his purpose.
But you don't need to have the chef feat to do that.
Okay, also, I contest the underlying notion in your argument that cowboy cooking is like a famous part of what cowboys are, because you presented this character as a cowboy, and that's not even in the top 10 things I think when I hear cowboy.
Then you just don't know your cowboy history.
As someone from Texas, I can second Scott.
I'm from Arizona, also a huge, arguably a
Duel me,
bigger
Amanda.
cowboy
Duel me.
Oh, at noon.
Right. If anything, having more knowledge of cowboys disqualifies you from a more objective view of this. We're looking for iconic cowboy things.
Okay, the chuck wagon is such a cowboy. You look up cowboy cooking; it's a thing.
I'm sure it's a thing.
That sounds like a freaking barbecue brand that you could buy something for your grill accessories at Home Depot. Like, I'm sorry.
Okay.
What I'm saying is that it's less of a thing than like taking the gunner feat or something for Wyatt. It's not.
This is more fun though.
Yeah, but we're looking for iconic to the character.
It is. It's part of his thing. That he
part of
cooks chili and beans for his companions on the road when they're traveling during a short rest. It's part of who he is. It's what he did as a cowboy in Arizona, not Texas, right?
Okay, sure he did that. I don't know.
It's part of his backstory. Okay, you know what? Fine, let me get into Mage Slayer though. You're right. Sounds epic, very cool. What happens if there are mages in the party?
I don't know. You come up with some.
You don't know. Very interesting. Also, Corey, while we're at it,
inter-party conflict. You have fun inter-party conflict.
Fun. The Mage Slayer. It's about this edgy dude who's like, "I'm gonna kill all wizards."
But is that conflict? How is that conflict going to be solved if that's like the main part of your character? All
right, hold up. I gave free license for whatever backstory and philosophy you want. What I was implying was you would have somebody who would have a strict thing against mages who abuse their power, some sort of vendetta against mages, and something where like it's a situation of like, by what right does this arch wizard practice, not this level 4 wizard who is standing beside me.
Right. I think where you're falling behind here is that both Corey and I have like established characters who we know their backstories. You're just like, I think Mage Slayer could be cool, but you don't actually know how it's going to play out.
This debate is this the thing we are attacking me on that I didn't just
No, it's just
recycle
it's so hard to see how it would actually play out until you have a Mage Slayer character who's built around this idea of questioning and challenging magic, because not every setting is going to be low magic enough for that to work. And you have to have like a lower magic setting, or else you said, you know, magic's everywhere, but that can be problematic. There are problems everywhere if this dude's always like, I don't trust that, it's magic. Like,
I think you're only running into as much of the same problem as like saying my favorite enemy as a ranger is demons, and then a tiefling is in the party, or fae and a centaur is in the party.
Right, well then that means the Mage Slayer thing isn't as integral to the character and their backstory, and like who they are and how they act. Anyways, I want to move on to Corey's thing because I want to make sure we have time to read Corey's. The Prodigy feat, that lacks so much inherent flavor. You literally have to then take your own steps to give it flavor. The whole point is like, hey, what's a flavorful feat that can help define a character? This is like, hey, I'm just gonna use this feat as a way to give my character more abilities that would fit them.
It's a feat that lets me enhance the flavor of the character at level, or whenever I took it, which was level 1. Like, sure, maybe the feat doesn't have inherent flavor, but maybe that's something that's good about it. Maybe it's like an Uno wild card that you can give to your character so that you can put whatever flavor you want into it. Okay, maybe I'm a fighter. I'm super, I don't know, sporty. I want to take athletics or something. You can do that. I mean, just because you're not cooking beans in the feat description doesn't mean that it's not a good feat to give your character some depth.
I also would like to contest the idea that these characters that we're making have to fit with every campaign. We were tasked with making a character that is based around a feat. That works well for the character. I think that saying that this is a lesser character because it works in a low magic setting is there's a fallacy in that argument. Like, Luke Skywalker is a lesser character when you put him in like a 1990s teen draft. I take that.
You're right. That's fair.
Yeah, he would be great. But I get what you're saying, Scott. I get what you're saying.
Which is why Wyatt is even better, because you're right. So what is only great for that one shot, but it's still like it rounds out and creates this amazingly fun character. Also, Prodigy, the idea of Prodigy, you think like this very like well studied or like well-rounded, almost like a bit of a nerdy character. It's like I can do so many things. Galena, like that. Galena's not necessarily a Prodigy. She's 18 years old, still learning things. She doesn't align in my mind with the idea of a Prodigy in that sense, besides using it to like give her extra abilities in the things she's already good at or should be good at.
But you say Prodigy.
I think Fieldmaster is a more definitional part of Galena's identity. When I think Galena and Feats, I think, oh, she's a protector. She has the protector fighting style. She has Shieldmaster so that she can really enhance. I thought that's what you were going to argue when you said.
Same. I didn't even know she had Prodigy.
Well, but Shieldmaster to me, I mean, I took the feat. Obviously, I think it's a good feat, but it's more mechanically, centric. Sure, you get the shield like protector, sort of, I guess, symbolism. But with Prodigy, I think it is actually more, it says more about the character of Galena. Amanda, I disagree that the idea of a prodigy is someone who's good at everything. The idea of a prodigy is someone who's just young and really freaking good at something, okay? A piano prodigy isn't great at like acting. That's really fucking good at piano. And Galena is really fucking good at religion. And she's young and she's thrust into this adventure. She thrust into this adventure as young as she is and is forced to sort of deal with it and learn new things along the way, like you said. And let me read you the description of Prodigy. You have a knack for learning new things. You literally said that's what Galena's doing. And like, if that's not Galena,
my character who's about learning things, then you're okay. There are other feats that would help enhance the religious aspect of. There are other feats that could help enhance that specifically religious aspect. I think Prodigy is fine. It's just so vague, and it's a flavor enhancer, not a flavor itself.
But I didn't choose Prodigy. I didn't choose Prodigy because Galena's religious. I chose it because she's young and good at religion. It's a different thing that I'm going for. And by taking Prodigy, look, no, because to say that I only took Prodigy because I wanted her to be better at religion is just kind of like one dimensional. Prodigy allows you to like almost fill in the blanks and just kind of add little bits of flavor in different places. Again, I didn't have to take religion, and I chose Prodigy because I knew I didn't have to take religion. I wanted it to be more, almost just more characteristic of Galena and her youth, rather than just she's a paladin, she's good at religion.
See, I don't know what flavor that actually is, but the flavor of the chef feat with Wyatt is the flavors of beans and chili and dried fruit.
What is it?
Fuck yeah, peppers and
the flavor.
Coffee.
Allspice.
And
Tony's.
That was the end of the chaos rounds with allspice Tony's.
So list off other chili spices and flavors. But.
Yeah, before we go down that path, you can now make your closing statements.
My closing statement is that if you were playing Wyatt in a campaign and you were playing Galena in a campaign and you had not taken either of your feats yet, nobody would approach you and say, "Oh, you got to take these feats. They're so in character. I can't believe you haven't taken them already." If you're playing a character who is literally a mage slayer, you are likely to have somebody say, "Hey, dude, there's a feat called Mage Slayer. This would be perfect for Baron Shepherd," or whatever your character's name is. I think that I have a feat that is definitional to the identity, that informs how they function on a mechanical level and on a roleplay level. And I think the aesthetic of it is awesome.
I will go next. Scott, the only reason someone would come up to you and tell you that your character needs to take this feat is because you built your character around that feat. Amanda, again, I'll say it. Look, Wyatt is a one-shot character. You kind of just added a feat and added it to his backstory. I don't know if it really adds any depth other than the fact that he can cook. And I'll say the fact that the reason you take a feat is to sort of I think is to just make your character more fleshed out and clear as to what character they are and what they're all about, and the aspects of their backstory that just kind of make sense or more intuitive. And that's why I chose Prodigy for Galena, because it allowed me to put all of those different perks and benefits into what I believe to be right for her backstory.
I will say I still believe that Prodigy is a cop-out for what we're trying to accomplish. It's just like, hey, you get to choose anything. It just lacks that inherent flavor. Mage Slayer, I think, is, you're right, like Cobra, for their point. The only reason why it's so integral is because you base that's what the character is into Mage Slayer. And yes, it ties in, but I think it ties in too much. Unless it almost enhances too. It does. So I think, I don't know how to put this, but like Corey's yours, it just enhances too much. Scott's doesn't enhance enough because just like is the thing. It's like, I don't know. Chef is just this beautiful, fun addition. Guys, they're not as fun as Chef, and that's what I'm really trying to go for here. Is it has both mechanical benefits and creates this cool, fun backstory. Anyways, look up what a chuck wagon is and cowboy cooking, and we're gonna have chili night one night, and you'll see.
That concludes round two. Now we're going on to round three. Now this question I have not told to the debaters. And so a couple weeks ago, I don't remember who it was, but someone presents the question of which stat would you take 20 in real life? So now I propose the question, which feat would you take in real life? You can have one feat. I'll give you 2 minutes because there is a long feat list. You have 2 minutes to kind of look through the feats, or 3 minutes. I'm feeling generous. You have 3 minutes to look through the feats. Which feat, if you could have it in real life, I mean, you can it's not like you're adding modifiers to your character. Like if you decide to choose great weapon master, you can modify that to like being really good with, I don't know, something useful. But you know, so which feat would you take? You could take one feat in real life.
Have mine.
There is one feat that I'm almost certain that one of you is going to say, but let's just see. Right. I've given you all time to think of your feat. Some of you had it immediately. Some of you had to check. But I think it is you, Corey, first, because you haven't gone first yet. I will give you 2 minutes. Which feat would you take in real life?
Jake, let me ask you a question.
All right.
Do you paint? I'm just kidding. Have you ever taken a test? These are rhetorical questions because I know you have. You ever taken a test? You ever gone out on a date? You ever applied for a job? You ever, wanted to get into a super awesome university? Have you ever wanted to do something that was maybe questionably within your reach? Well, I know I have. And I think in all of those situations, I would have greatly benefited from the lucky feat. Look, maybe it's the obvious answer, but there's a reason it's the obvious answer. Because how many times in your life has somebody said, good luck? How many times have you just said, wish me luck? Okay, look, luck is an interesting thing because like, it's just one of those like concepts, ideas that's just like, yeah, whatever. But like, if you were to actually be able to control that luck, that's like a movie premise right there. Okay, it's just a great life to be able to, first of all, take all your worries away for something that you need luck on, and it just allows you to kind of be in control of the things that worry you and maybe don't come as easily to you, and that's why I think lucky is the best feat to have, to just use those luck points in your life. It would be great, and there'd be a learning curve, like I said, movie premise and conflict, but at the end of the day, once you learn how to use that luck for good, bada bing, bada boom, you got yourself a great feat.
All right, the lucky feat. That was the one that I was pretty sure someone would say. But who's second? Scott. Which feat would you take in real life?
You ever taken a test?
Yep.
This is legit my backup option because I also thought lucky, and then I thought someone else is going to pick lucky. I got to think of a backup option. You ever taken a test, Jake, and wanted 100% assurance on it, rather than maybe getting a reroll once or for 3 questions out of the whole thing? That's why you want, in real life, not in D&D, keen mind. You want to be able to photographically and exactly remember anything you want within the past month. And you want a small but meaningful bonus to the intelligence score. Something that will, this feat makes you both better at critical thinking and applying problem solving. It also lets you have all of the pieces that you need to solve those problems. Within the last month is a huge margin in terms of real life things. If you could remember everything that happened in the last month in exact detail, that solves so many problems. You don't have to study for tests. You do, aside from like finals at the end, and when you do, it's looking over your notes once. You do not have to ever slip up on tiny little bits of information, as long as within the past month you have reviewed over them. And beyond that, you still have your normal amount of memory. Besides that, you get a couple of neat party tricks. You always know what time it is. You're not going to be late. That's a minor benefit. You always know what direction is north. That's not really going to be helpful in everyday life, but it's a cool thing that you can do. But
There's time.
I don't like that I ended on the north, but you get my point.
I do.
Well, wait, I was about to say, like, I'm finding the north is like, that's for me is what I need the most. 'Cause I am navigationally challenged.
Bro, buy a compass.
It would be-
Buy a compass.
It would
Buy
be
a watch.
It would
Or
be
a
a fun.
watch. Buy both.
It would be a fun party trick. I won't deny that.
The photographic memory is what I'm really.
Yeah.
For a month.
So
Anyways,
key-
we'll get into that later.
keen minds, not in D&D, but yes, in real life. That's what he said, not me. Amanda,
Right, how much
third.
time? Because I wasn't listening.
you have 2 minutes. What
Okay.
feat would you take in real life?
So I definitely considered keen mind. I considered lucky. That's one of the list. I'm like, you know what feat I really, really want? Telekinetic. First of all, besides the obvious, you do get increased intelligence, wisdom, or charisma by 1, so it'll boost the mental stats. And also, being able to cast Mage Hand at will, it's invisible, no like verbal or somatic giveaways. You have a bit of telekinesis. I want telekinesis. That's so fucking cool. And then also shoving people telekinetically, that's also pretty epic. Like, I can just study more and I can just, I don't know, like work harder and I don't need the luck. I can't just practice my telekinesis. I want the telekinetic feat. Is there anything else I have to say about that? No, I yield my time. I want telekinesis.
So Amanda wants the force, basically.
Yeah, I think everyone else should want it too.
So the telekinetic feat, the key mind feat, and the lucky feat. Well, now we will enter a chaos round where you can defend why your feat would be the best to have in real life.
Amanda, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why was the second thing you thought of with the telekinetic feat physically assaulting people with telekinesis?
Because that is
Why do you
the
wanna do
third
that,
thing you get
Amanda?
from the feat is like as a bonus action you can telekinetically shove one creature you see. So it's part of the
Yeah,
actual.
and you were like, that would be
You-
awesome to be able
It
to.
would,
you can get away with murder.
No.
Okay, I'm sort of short. I'm 5'7", and I'm also pretty weak physically. Just be able to like see someone and shove them and not have to worry about size. I want to shove a lot of people, but I can't. And also, it's telekinetic, so
I
no
can,
one has
but
to know that I
people
shoved them.
Don't, and I think I should get points for that, Jake.
Oh, look, everyone is like, God, that person is an asshole. I want to shove them. But also, it's in public. You can't. But if you can do it telekinetically and just kind of look at them and they fall over.
I mean, in the wrong hands, this feat would be so dangerous.
Amanda, I feel like someone's gonna find you out though.
I feel like
Maybe not with shoving somebody, but maybe just in any case of, you know, maybe you cast a mage hand, someone sees you like focusing on it. I don't know. If you do get found out, by the way, you're gonna become a freaking subject for government testing, like 11 from Stranger Things.
That's
Like-
only a thing in movies. That's not actually a thing. And
Government
also,
How would you know? How would you know?
the government can't catch me.
Oh yeah,
Anyways,
like all the
I'm gonna
other
go on to
telekinetic people that
YouTube.
haven't
Your
been
things.
caught and subjected
Okay,
to
first of
government
all,
testing.
Scott,
Why can't they catch you?
Scott, first, I'm gonna go into your two choices. So, key mind.
Explain why they
Okay,
couldn't catch you.
don't worry about it.
She
So-
used the force.
There we go. Also, it's so small. It's mage hand level. It's so small. No one can find out. Anyways, keen mind. Just study harder. And also, I have the memory of a goldfish, and I'm doing amazing in school. My classes, I am kicking, and I can't remember jack. It's not actually the most important thing. It's you can get away with not.
Think how much easier it would be to kick ass if you could just. All right, got it. Have it for the test. You know, you just.
I haven't taken a test this entire semester. I've taken some quizzes that are all open book. I haven't taken because I've been
There's
like
a lot of anecdotal evidence. Lots of people take tests.
okay, but wait, after you graduate, school,
That's a great point. That's something I wrote down too. I was like, dude, but like, what about the point in life where you just don't take tests anymore?
Yep.
Like, what are you going to do then?
It helps out with work. You remember all of the data. It's a networking thing. You get to know.
That's what computers are for. Can a computer, Jedi mind trick lift up a piece of, whatever, your drink from across the room?
I trust that by having this minor useful benefit to your day-to-day life, you will have more brain power, more operating capacity, and that you will be more efficient on a day-to-day basis because you will be able to just kind of like imagine you're doing a data entry job. You look at the list, you're done. You move over, you start just.
I want to argue that relatively y'all have the keen mind feat in comparison to me, right? It's
because
people
we're
get
not
a
in D&D.
Okay, yeah, because you don't have never mind, that's a whole different thing. But basically, like, people can get away with not having great memories. People are successful when they have shit memories.
I know so many successful people that don't have telekinesis.
But that's fair.
I know
Anyways.
a lot of successful people who are living great lives who got there because they were lucky. Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, these people were born into their wealth and they were very lucky in doing so. Yes, privilege. Yes, they were lucky to have that privilege. Dude, yes, it totally is.
Let's talk about the mechanic of how lucky works, because lucky does not make you more lucky. It lets you choose to re-roll a thing that happens in less than 6 seconds. You're taking a test, you don't get to lucky the whole thing. You get to lucky the moment when you write something down and then think again. I'm like, no, actually, I think this. And you get 3 of those during the whole day. It's a tiny little benefit, but it's like when you're writing an essay, it's like 1 sentence. When you're out on a date talking to someone, it's 1 failed joke. In my experience, those things don't make or break the entire thing.
I mean, also, even easier, they might.
It's no guarantee it'll even work out. If the probability of a thing going right for you was like 1 out of 400, trying it again, it's still just going to be, now it's 2 out of 400. It's not that.
Okay, but what if it does succeed? Then you just get a better outcome from it. And here's the thing:
you work harder, and you increase your chances.
Which
that's such a cop out.
Excellent, because working harder is so much easier when you don't have to worry about like remembering when you're supposed to do everything, remembering all of the data that you need, remembering like also think about the potential. You're talking about when you're out of school. Think of what an astounding rate you can learn things at. One of the biggest problems in like one of the things that they say about like brain degradation is at a certain point people grow complacent and they stop learning things. If it's
are you learning?
Hey, so you also know with keen mind, you can recall anything within the past month. You know that, right? It doesn't.
Right. What I'm arguing is that making this low stress way to learn things and then ingrain them in your system. You want to have a photographic memory of them, but you will be able to like build on repeat knowledge over time. I am arguing that making learning stress-free will incentivize people to continue that practice.
Also, what we also do that is reforming the education system and getting rid of our institutionalized educational barriers.
Yeah, what feat is that, Amanda?
Anyway, in pedagogy of the oppressed.
No, but like, okay, but keen mind, the way you're putting it, Scott, I mean, it's just cramming with a better memory. Like, it's just cramming with like less of a time constraint. You just remember more. But like at that point, you still have to make the commitment to learn. Like, you still have to commit these things to, the way you think, and just instead of just being an encyclopedia. Like, I mean, that's still like, it's just retaining stuff and not actually using it. And you said something about like improving your critical thinking, and keen mind has nothing to do with that. I mean, raising your intelligence score by 1 isn't going to make you like an extreme critical thinker compared to the way you were 1
critical thinking does not equal memory. It's not the same thing.
That's why the intelligence bonus is there.
Intelligence is
But
that
it's not-
book smart,
it's-
like remembering things. It's
That's
more
not the
having
last
wisdom
straw.
as, like,
That's
applying it.
The investigation skill, that's entirely based on critical thinking. That's not a memory thing. That's based on intelligence. Also, when it's like
Problem solving?
the
You gotta look for stuff.
What?
Investigation, you have to look for stuff too. That's not just like,
It's not
Ooh,
critical thinking.
ooh.
That's different. That's like next level
Narrowing-
applying
it's an
things. It's
intelligence
not
skill, it's narrowing down places where things could be.
not.
Why is it an intelligence?
That's not critical thinking though. I disagree. Keen mind is not. You're trying, and I appreciate that. Are we on to our final statements yet? 'Cause we're just.
Yeah, we'll just do the final statements now.
Okay. I just want to wrap up by saying things like lucky and keen mind, you can actively do things now as a regular human being to increase your odds of things. Right, luck is not always something you can work towards. Sometimes it is just like you have to be there at the right time. Keen mind, like just you can study more to get smarter and to apply yourself more in that way and to have better learning strategies. You cannot gain telekinesis currently in real life. And that's why I think people should take this feat in real life, because it's not something you can just get by developing your own skills. And it's fun, it's subtle enough that you can just, it's great for everyday life without being too overpowering and overbearing. It is just, it's great. I want telekinesis, and I think deep down, you guys also want telekinesis.
the only world in which I would want telekinesis is in a world where telekinesis is a thing. The reason telekinesis should not be a thing is because, Amanda, you will get in so much trouble. Like, I mean, straight up practically, you're just gonna, the world is gonna change, and it's gonna be for the worse because this girl in California got telekinesis and the government had to do something about it. And Scott, like, keen mind is going to be rendered like pretty much useless after you graduate a place where you don't have to take tests, or if you're not doing a data analysis job where your boss is going to make you do more work anyway, regardless of how quickly you do it. It's still going to be a 9 to 5 because the way capitalism works. But look, Lucky, the mere fact that it's just like kind of the little things in life that you need luck on could make it that much better, because you're not changing your life in this super drastic way. You're just kind of taking those little victories that just help you become a happier person. You know, maybe you do land that joke on the date. Maybe you do get that question right by using those luck points. And you know, if it doesn't work out, then your life's not any worse. I'll tell you that. Okay, lucky only makes your life better, and that's why I think it's the best feat to take in real life.
I would like to argue that lucky only makes your life better in the most incremental, non-consequential scenarios possible. It's something built for a world where you have to make saves and attack rolls, and we don't have to do that. I would like to argue that telekinesis actively makes your life worse in the ways that Corey already covered. What I am arguing is not that keen mind is the be-all, end-all, perfect, like makes your life perfect kind of thing. What I'm arguing is that having this special skill that has practical application in both work and schoolwork will make you more consistently good. You can say that, sure, your boss is going to make you do more work once you're finished with your thing. They were going to make you do that anyway when you worked harder. Your issue is not with keen mind there. Your issue is with capitalism. That's not a slight against keen mind and the way that it helps you function within this system.
Awesome. That concludes question 3. I shall now quickly count up the scores. Okay, I've counted up the scores.
Were you doing it while we were arguing?
maybe. I'll do question 1 and question 2, and then I'll do overall. I can say that it's very, very close at the top, and I mean, maybe it's me just not being able to make up my mind, but question 1, I had third Amanda.
That's fair.
I thought the feet overload was a strong argument against it, and I could definitely see that. But second, I said Corey. I personally actually like the concept of low tier, high tier. I do think it needed more fleshing out, and to make an effective system, you would have to change the entire feat system, because the point about people min-maxing low tier and high tier feats is a real thing. And I don't think you differentiated the obtaining of low tier, mid tier, low tier and high tier enough. Like the only difference is you start with low tier. But I gave you a bonus point for just the idea, because I actually kind of liked it. But first was Scott. I didn't think there was much arguments against it that really had weight. I think that's a pretty good system. Not much more to say about it. I just think that was the strongest one for round one. Round two, third. I also had Amanda at third for round two. I liked kind of the flavor. I don't think you properly explained why it was necessary to who Wyatt was. Like, I mean, cooking's a part of him, but it is not who he is.
I didn't say yeehaw enough, did I?
I did give you a bonus point for some cowboy stuff, but
That was +1.
second, I was pretty torn on this one, but second I had Corey. I think the idea of getting all these different skills is pretty cool, and I think Glenn does fit the description of a prodigy. I think the argument saying that it didn't really add, or kind of, it was kind of something that people didn't really know you had, was the argument against it. And first I had Scott. I think the idea of a mage slate is pretty cool. I've thought about it. Yeah. But overall, well, overall, again, I have a tie. But the way I'm probably going to, this is a debate, so I'm going to give the win to the person who depended less on bonus points. I think that's a fair way of doing it. So therefore, the win goes to Scott. He did come last in the last round, but he still won the first two. He did win both of you had 25, Corey and Scott. Corey, you came second, Amanda third. The last rounds I had Amanda winning, then Corey. But overall, I think Scott's first, especially his first one, I think Scott's first argument for the first one was the strongest one. The second one was not as strong, but it was stronger than the other two. But that concludes this debate. Yeah, congratulations, Scott. But yeah, my friendly watchers, who do you think won? Am I a fool? Did I get it wrong? Say in the comments. What feat would you take in real life?
I feel Amanda's internet has cut out, but I feel beholden because she would ask, why should she have won?
Yes.
Who do you think had the best feat arguments?
Like, share, comment, you know what to do. Thank you for listening.
And have a good day.
Yeehaw.